having a dream is never enough, bro. Like a dream, you got to put action behind your dream. You got to seek knowledge behind your dream. That's what I think the difference is that, again, the things that people are failing to do is putting action behind their dreams, is seeking out the correct knowledge, things like that. Because again, I think if you ask most people, yeah, you have a dream, I want to be rich, I want to be famous, I want to do this, I want to be a rapper, I want to be, but like, what are you doing about that? What's good, bro?
What's good, bro? Thank you, for real. Like I'm really excited to talk about these things. I've been so serious about health, fitness, mindset because I knew those are things that were lacking in different aspects, and most of the people that I've had to bury mostly was health. You know, bad health choices in their 20s start to compound in their future.
Dr. Boyce Watkins actually, he speaks about that a lot, because they were saying with these COVID-19 cases that disproportionately affecting the Black community.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of that has to do with the underlying health conditions themselves are caused because a lot of people in the Black community don't really pay attention to their diet and nutrition. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that is the underlying cause, or that's the underlying condition. But a lot of these conditions are preventable by just taking care of yourself. Like
taking care of yourself. That's right. Same with like sodium, cholesterol intake, even having too many like bad carbs. You know, there's a good carb in my opinion, there's a bad carb. You know, things that have a lot of fiber is good. Those are still considered carbs, but empty carbs like sodas and candy, sugar, stuff like that, that is just full of fake stuff, because there's good sugar as well. So I'm not gonna get too deep, but yeah, man. And I really started learning a lot about it when I started keto, and I cut how many calories I got. So I had to really pay attention to what I was eating. And that's when I started learning a lot more about diet. And I was like, whoa, I did not know all these different things affect you this different way, X, Y, and Z. So yeah, man, like a lot of these underlying things. So now, for example, I don't add salt to any of my meals that I cook. My meals are still amazing, but I just don't add it because I don't need it. Most of the stuff already has some type of sodium inside of it already too. So it's like, I want to taste the natural, the real version of this food. So, and I don't eat meat and chicken and stuff anyway. So I'm okay for that part.
And then like your taste buds adapt too. When you just have less salt, you get used to that. Like it might be wild at first, like you're used to all the sugar and salt that you usually eat, but I mean, everybody can adapt to a different thing.
I definitely think all of these things play a part into like how we're going to grow as men and how we're going to be able to change the world, man, because there's no way that we can live a long time and have, I guess, longevity is a better word, if we're not even taking care of our own temple first. And that starts with our mind and starts with inside of our body, bro. So before we can even perform good, we need to be able to be good on the inside, you feel me? So
Yeah, that's why there was that's why I sent that message when I was talking about like, because I have gotten caught up in just money before and just like, man, I got to get this X amount. And I was like, let me take
money, right?
And I sent that message because I was really sitting there, man, bro. And actually, the compound effect, it touched on that. So I created a chart, and it says right here, it has business, finance, and lifestyle, health and well-being, spirituality, and family and relationships.
Wow.
And like that's like the overall encompassing thing for wealth, because people a lot of times they just think that wealth is finances, like that's it.
And I'll be all.
But it's like there's so many other things that are part of that, and it's like you can't even enjoy riches if everything fucked up, bro. Like
That's
people
facts.
the money is the answer, but that's whatever, so
I agree, bro. I mean, I definitely appreciate it when you sent that message, because I was like, I'm on the same page, bro. Like, I'm on the exact same page. Yeah, you did some soul searching. I remember that message, bro. Like, I think about things like that all the time, and that's probably also the reason why I feel like I can go so much harder with all of these things and how these conversations. I don't even want to say that they are recycled or anything like that, but I feel like we're able to get deeper and deeper and deeper into these different topics and different aspects of our life, because we understand that it's not just one thing that's going to cure our life. It's not a silver bullet. Like, we have to become a better person overall. Just start with one thing first, and then you can start growing out into exploring this and exploring that. Like, some weeks I'm super focused on just marketing. Some weeks I'm super focused on stocks. Some weeks I'm super focused on real estate. Some weeks I'm just focused on mindset, mindfulness. Like,
nah, bro. And speaking of that, that was this week for me had nothing to do with business or finances or real estate or anything like that. It was all personal development, growth, and so that's how I came up on Miracle Morning, which I haven't read.
Talk to me about that.
I haven't read that book yet, but so I was just like thinking, I was like, all right, I do affirmations like when I wake up, when I go to sleep, and I also I meditate. I've been meditating consistently for probably like a month and a half, 2 months. The little 15-minute mindful breathing. So I was like, okay, is there anything else I can add? And I've been hearing a lot about in Think and Grow Rich, in other books, just visualization.
Yeah.
What I did was, I was like, well, I haven't really tapped into that topic. Let me go. I went on Apple Podcast app and just typed in visualization on a little show search and just see what comes up. So I did. I listened to probably 3, and then I looked up visualize because I wasn't liking all the results I was getting. They were good, but then I was like, all right, let me just look up visualize. But then when I looked up visualize, I said the Bigger Pockets real estate podcast came up. I'm like, wait, what? Like, why do I see real estate Bigger Pockets real estate? I'm like, okay, let me click on this because it came up for visualize. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
And then they started their intro and they were like, this is not going to be a regular real estate podcast because usually they have a real estate professional or an investor or something like that.
Yeah.
And they were like, this is not about that. This is about just becoming a better person and like making things reality. And I'm like, okay, bet. Like this is my personal growth week. Like, bet.
Yeah.
and podcast that I'm already tuned into, but I never knew that they had. I never knew that that he was on there. So the Miracle Morning. So this is the guy who wrote Miracle Morning. So Hal Elrod. Something that stuck out to me in that podcast was he said, your level of success seldom exceeds your level of self-development. And I was
that's deep.
He was like, I was trying so hard to be successful and do real estate and this and that. If you don't improve yourself, then you can't get there. And Hal, he actually was in a crazy car accident. He died, came back to life. He was in a coma. all these wild things.
Whoa.
That quote, your level of success seldom exceeds your level of self-development, really stuck out to me. And he was talking about his method. Every day he wakes up and he uses something called the SAVERS method. And I think it might be pretty similar to the slight edge. Like it could be, because I think the slight edge and Miracle Morning are probably generally the same topic.
The slight edge and the compound effect. And I'm assuming with this, and also with Kobe's Mamba mentality, the thing that they're talking about, they package it so many different ways, but the one thing that they're talking about, like the actual thing, is time. You know, the slight edge, they're talking about how time is on your side and how it's also not on your side. And the compound effect, time is on your side in the sense that interest over time will compound. Mamba mentality, Kobe literally talked about he had to wake up earlier because he wanted to have more time to work out than other people. He wanted more time because that one extra workout every day started compounding over time. And I was like, yo, time is literally just what it is. We need to learn how to leverage our time. The 4-hour work week is about leveraging your time, bro. Like,
exactly. And and then he was saying how in the podcast, he was saying, like, it's as simple as, if you want to wake up just 30 minutes earlier, just go to bed 30 minutes earlier. Wake up 30 minutes. Like, it's real simple. But it's just things that most people aren't willing to do. So back to the SAVERS method. SAVERS, it's an acronym. The S is for silence. A is for affirmations. V is for visualization. E is for exercise. R is for reading. And S is for scribing, which is journaling. But scribing, just so that there's the acronym makes sense.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, so out of those 6 things, I was doing affirmations, I exercise, I read, I do meditate. But the 2 things that I hadn't really been doing was visualization and scribing, which is journaling.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, this is not even crazy to do this. Like, all I got to do is add visualization and scribing. So I actually tried it out this morning. This morning, I probably got up at like 6:30ish, something like that. I packaged all this stuff into an hour. So for silence, I do 15 minutes of mindful breathing. Affirmations, I just said that my main affirmation probably like 10 times. Mm-hmm. And then visualization. Now that's one that's like been kind of somewhat hard for me because, and I was hearing this, is that when you first start visualization, it can be kind of fuzzy, like just trying to put those pictures in your head. Mm-hmm. And also they say that your brain, there's like a dissonance when, if you're thinking about yourself right now as you are, but instead of your current situation, you think of yourself as having riches or having whatever you want, your brain kind of fights you a little bit because it's like that's not even your reality. So what do you mean?
Yeah.
So I've been doing visualization, but I'm new to it. So like probably 3 days, and I tried it again today, but I put it into this, and mm-hmm. that was probably the hardest part about that SAVERS method, is just trying to visualize. And actually, I visualized the studio that I was trying to visualize that, mm-hmm. and yeah, bro, it's just something that you got to keep working at because, like I said, your brain is like, this is not what you have right now. But if you push through that and you include like what it will take to get there, that's another thing. Hal was talking about how most people just, they just, it's
law of attraction and that's it.
Yeah, it's all genie crap, like rub the Buddha's tummy and stuff like that. And I'm glad that one of the hosts on the podcast said something about it, because he was a skeptic and I'm naturally a skeptic. So when I see stuff, even with affirmations, when I first heard that concept, I was like, bro, what are you talking about? Like, and it's a shame. Like, I wish I wasn't like that, but I mean, I'm here now. Like, I get it now, but just that concept to me was like mumbo jumbo. So I'm skeptical of everything. And I like the way how he differentiated his version of visualization. He said it's not just like that end picture. Like, you need to think about also the things you're gonna need to do to get there as well, mm-hmm. because that's part of your journey too. Like you can't just. It's not just a rub the genie and like everything will appear. Law of
Yeah.
attraction. It's deeper than that, and it actually takes hard work. Like it's not just it's not that. Visualization is new to me. I'm working on that, trying to force my brain to like accept the fact that what I want is gonna be what it is, you know. So I did that for like I put a timer on for 5 minutes.
Okay. For visualization?
For visualization, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll probably extend that as I become more comfortable with it. But
Yeah.
I don't want to burn myself out trying to like
Force it.
force it. So then I exercise. And he said it could be something as simple as like just doing jumping jacks for 1 minute just to get
It's
that
that
blood,
simple. Exactly.
flowing to your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Reading. I read about Stoicism today, which I'll touch on later.
I love it. Love it.
And then the scribing, which okay, this is another thing. There's different methods of journaling. I mean, there's no real you don't have to journal in a specific way, but I think something that he said that was pretty good, sounded pretty good, was that if you start your day with gratitude, you face the world with such a better view. Like he was saying, like when you're journaling in the morning, you know, before you really started your day, just ask yourself, what are you grateful for? And I mean, I think even that alone is like, sometimes I just forget, man, like there's so many things that are happening right now in the present that I can be
Mm-hmm.
grateful. And then when you think about that, it just makes you take a step back and you're like, well, damn, like even getting here, like I had to do something, or I'm just thankful that I have this in my life.
Yep.
And I think and that a lot of people should take heed to is that if you get too caught up in the future, it can seem like you've done nothing.
Yep.
Whenever
Exactly.
you know you did a lot to even be at the point where you're at, and if you just face the day with gratitude, man, you'll be much more in a giving. You have a giving heart, and as you know, like what you put out into the world is what you get out of it. Like that was good for me. I think because journaling, sometimes I felt like I was forcing something just to do it, but I think having that, like, what are you grateful for? And what could you have done better from yesterday? And how are you going to improve on that today? Those two questions will help me in terms of the journaling thing. And I know you've been doing journaling for a while. Like I know you've been. So
Yeah. What you just said, everything that you just talked about, man, that is some heavy stuff to unpack, man. Like as you were talking, I had to make mental notes because the first thing that you talked about that really piqued my interest was about the visualization. And as you know, like I'm trying to read a bunch of books this month just because I'm just really, really hungry for more of this knowledge and wisdom. And I went through two books that are very similar to the whole visualization thing, which is the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone and The Magic of Thinking Big. I completely forgot who that one is by. But the funny thing about you talking about that is because when we're trying to tell our brain, this is what we're going to get, this is not even what we're going to get, this is where I am. And the whole law of attraction thing that we're talking about, the problem that most people have is that they don't realize how much action it actually takes to achieve their goal, to actualize their goal. So doing things like that, the miracle morning, visualizing, actually putting into action or a plan around it, the 10X rule and the magic of thinking big. That's the reason why I've really enjoyed that book, was because I started to understand that, like, through my own journey, I've been able to understand that I severely underestimate how much work it takes to put in to get something. For example, with VMG, like I severely understood, or misunderstood rather, how much work it really takes to put in all of this stuff, because then I'll burn myself out. But when you really visualize yourself that far ahead and then you start putting that plan into place, you're like, oh damn, I wasn't thinking big at all. Like that's all it took. Like, okay, maybe I should have aimed higher because I'm definitely aiming too low. I'm underselling myself. And then the last thing that you talked about, which was very interesting, was describing, bro, because as you know, like, yeah, I've been journaling for, it's going on 1 year and 3 months now, actually. It's crazy. But the biggest thing I learned, and you kind of talked about that too, was we tend to kind of forget these little things that we've done, and it's hard for us to track it, be grateful for any small battles that we've had. And that's the biggest thing that I learned from it, was just I've realized over time I'm able to go back and be like, damn, I'm very happy I decided to do that because now I can track it. And then I've read in another book that when we start our day thinking about the positive, it forces our brain to kind of rewire itself because we're natural pessimists. You know what I mean? Like if you believe in evolution and Darwinism and all that, we have evolved from always trying to fend for ourselves. You know, literally waking up in fear. Is this animal going to kill me? Did my fire go out? So is my baby dead? Like little things like that. So we're naturally inclined to think of the negativity rather than if we force ourselves to think of the positive first. We force ourselves to do mindful breathing and meditation. Our whole like perspective on the world changes, man. So those are just some things I had to unpack, man, because that was some powerful stuff, bro.
And it's practical, and
Exactly.
I want to talk about, because with speaking about this method and just practicality, what I read from my reading period of SAVERS was Stoicism, and I started looking it up, and I was just like,
Yes.
okay, let me unpack this a little bit, because I understood the basic philosophy, but I was like looking at methods. I mean, or things that you can apply, just to your thinking. And one of the biggest things they taught was just focus on what you can control. Focus on the things that you can control, because you know me, you know how I feel about noise and distractions, and
Yeah. We'll
it's
touch
just
on that too.
it's just constant BS all the time. So I was reading after I finished the Compound Effect earlier this week, I went back to 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which I haven't finished, but it's one of those books that you continuously read.
Piece apart, yeah.
Yeah. So that's where I drew the parallel between Covey, Stephen Covey. In this book, he talks about a circle of concern versus a circle of influence. Matter of fact, I'm on the page right now.
Who created that?
This is from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I even talked to my father about it. We were like, yeah, like there's a parallel between those two things. And he was like, I'm glad you're finally seeing those things. And just, bro, like it's really as simple as this. Like you can focus. I mean, what you need to focus on is really how you react to things, how you feel about them, and what you do about them. Here, I'll read this from the book. It says, another excellent way to become more self-aware regarding our own degree of proactivity is to look at where we focus our time and energy. We each have a wide range of concerns: our health, our children, problems at work, the national debt, and nuclear war. We could separate those from things in which we have no particular mental or emotional involvement by creating a circle of concern. As we look at those things within our circle of concern, it becomes apparent that there are some things over which we have no real control and others that we can do something about. We could identify those concerns in the latter group by circumscribing them within a smaller circle of influence. By determining which of these two circles is the focus of most of our time and energy, we can discover much about the degree of our proactivity. Proactive people focus their efforts in the circle of influence. They work on the things they can do something about. The nature of their energy is positive, enlarging and magnifying, causing their circle of influence to increase. Reactive people, on the other hand, focus their efforts in the circle of concern. They focus on the weakness of other people, the problems in the environment, and circumstances over which they have no control. Their focus results in blaming and accusing attitudes, reactive language, and increased feelings of victimization. The negative energy generated by that focus, combined with neglect in areas they should do something about, causes their circle of influence to shrink. So, and that goes with so many things that we talk about.
100%.
Just having that proactive, and it's so simple. Like if you told someone this stuff, it's like if you think about it, it's real simple, man. Just like focus on what you can control, bro. Like you're so worried about what this celebrity is doing and what, all the noise and just bro. It's just focus on what you can control, bro, because anything else is literally a waste of time.
Literally.
A waste of time, a waste of energy.
Yep.
It's like, why are you worried about that? Like, and that's part of the reason I got off social media, bro, because so much of the dialogue on there is about things that I have no investment in, I have no particular care about, and and I might care about it, but if it's something I can't change, I mean, I won't. I'm not going to touch on it because it's just a waste of energy and time.
It's out of your influence
It's
currently.
out of it's out of my circle of influence. And again, and that's another thing. So with more power and more responsibility,
It's gonna grow.
it's going to grow. Like
Yeah,
the picture has arrows because your circle of influence can expand.
exactly.
And then you got to look at it the other way. You can have a smaller circle of concern than your circle of influence. And
Hmm.
usually that happens when you become, too, like you might be narcissistic or
Different
have,
personality traits.
yeah, so the key is to really just have them both equal, be the same size.
Yeah.
Everything can influence you're concerned about, and vice versa. What you're concerned about, you influence.
I
So,
mean, Biggie said it himself, man, more money, more problems, right? Like,
for real. So I just thought that was real good, man. And I love, at this point, I think every time we read, bro, there's parallels in like every other sentence. But
isn't it
this
exciting though?
this one stuck out to me for real, bro. Like I was like, and I mean, me and my father are really trying to dissect this Stoicism stuff, bro. But
Yeah,
I
talk to me
was
about that.
like,
What kind of got you into it more?
honestly, one day I saw a YouTube comment, and it was like to live a life of purpose and just like live a logical life and a practical life.
Hmm.
Look up Stoicism. I was like, okay, I'm gonna look up Stoicism. I'm curious, but I was like, all right, let me look it up. I see Marcus Aurelius. I see Seneca the Younger.
Hmm.
Uh, I think is it Epictetus. Epictetus. I'm not sure how you pronounce it. These are all emperor. I guess is an emperor. Did I say
He
that?
was, yeah. He was an
Yeah.
emperor as well.
So
Yeah.
yeah, they. Oh, that's what I meant to say. He led an empire, the Roman
Empire.
Empire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the part. Yeah. Anyways, it's just like, bro. I started looking up these things, and I'm like, this is really a good way to think about things. Like this philosophy, out of every single philosophy I've ever heard about, this just makes the most practical sense to me. Like
Yep.
it's really based off of like logic and living your life to the best that you can. And
Yeah.
also, we're all minuscule in the grand scheme of things. Like honestly,
Hmm.
like we can. I'm not saying like don't have big dreams, don't shoot for anything big, but like if you really think about it, man, our individual lives are just compared to the grand scope of the entirety of everything, but it's nothing.
Insignificant. Yeah.
And, and I think that that helps you humble yourself too, like, and it helps you just become more self-aware. It's like, bro, you die, bro, and life keeps going on. Like, your close people might be hurt,
Yep.
you know, people might cry, but it's like, bro, in the grand scheme of things, nothing stops when people die, and that's another thing that they talk about is just being comfortable with death, man. Like some of these stoic philosophers, they would sit there and just ponder death and just be like, not ponder, I won't say ponder, but they would just sit there with the topic of death and just accept that like, bro, everyone has a day. And in the grand scheme of things, you should live life to your best, ability. But it's like, bro, you know what I mean? Like it's just you're gonna die eventually and that's that. And that's not even a pessimistic view. That's just a logical, practical view. That's the whole point of it, is that you shouldn't fear it, you know?
And I'm sure when you were going through all of this research and stuff, you probably came across Memento Mori.
I didn't. Who's that? Let me
So it's a Latin saying. It means remember that you must die. And I remember I put that on before I disabled my IG, and you're probably gonna see it when I finally reactivate it. But I just had a bunch of for the past 6 to 8 months. All I've been having is a bunch of stoic quotes, thoughts. Like my captions were like extremely long because I discovered Stoicism as well. And when I heard Memento Mori, I was like, damn, well, one, I want to get it tattooed on me because I truly believe the philosophy, but it's the same thing that you're talking about, man. We need to be aware that we're mortals. We're not immortal. We have the only two things we're guaranteed when we're born is life, because that already happened, and death. We just don't know what's going to happen when those dates are. but those are the only two numbers that we kind of have an idea of. So there was this podcast that I listen to very frequently called The Knowledge Project by S.A.V.E.R.S. And I forgot the actual co-host or guest he had on the podcast, but they talked about the dash in the middle. And it's literally the dash between your birth year and your death year. And I started thinking about that, and I started pairing that with the memento mori and all the Stoicism and stuff. And that's when it really started to drive me and get me into to be able to apply more pressure, because I started thinking, I was like, well, if we really think about it, and I started looking into average lifespans of males in the United States for my age, it's like 84, 85 or something like that. And I was like, okay, at the time I was 22. So I was like, oh, well, I've already lived 25% of my life. Can I say that I'm proud up until this point of the first quarter of my life? Not necessarily. I feel like toward the end of the last quarter of my life, I would say I started getting better, only because most of us, for the first 18 years of our life, were in school, elementary, middle, and high school. And then some people, of course, go to what's it called, undergrad or college. I didn't. I went straight to the workforce, basically. So those first 4 years from 18 to 22, you feel me? So I'm like, all right, well, I have 3 more quarters in my life, and I refuse to, 1, be afraid that I'm going to die at some point, and then 2, be afraid to live the life that I want to live, because I'm only given one, you feel me? So why not take full responsibility, extreme ownership on that?
Exactly. And because you said that, bro, I want to touch on the our quarter life crises and how we handle it. Because
Absolutely.
when you said that, I'm like, yeah, bro, that was pretty much the turning point between that first quarter and that second quarter.
Yep.
I mean, we kind of got on it early, because there's some people aren't gonna get there until 50. Like, some people just straight up, they're not. And that's not to down talk them, but I think it's even more integral to the fact, like, of why we need to get on our
Yeah.
reach success, because, bro, this hit us early. Like, we're 22, 21, 20, thinking like, damn, life is crazy. Like, bro, I just felt, I don't know what it was, man. I think one day, man, I think my key factor, one of them had to do with just when I finally faced the fact that, bro, I was going through my whole life thinking like, yeah, man, the prize is once you graduate, get out there, like, you're finally free, you're an adult. Bro, I remember to this day, bro, I will never forget this. My first day of my first 9 to 5, and mind you, this is a good job. Like, I work at a news station, like, I work at ABC, bro. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm thinking I feel great. Like, man, I came home and I told my brother, I was like, this can't be life, bro. Like, this, like, are you serious? Like, I'm gonna have to do this for the rest of my life. And this goes deeper than just finances and all that stuff. I'm talking about just like, you're literally just a cog in the machine.
No excitement.
For your entire life, unless you step out and do something about it. And this, shout out to you for putting me on to The Strangest Secret to Success.
Yeah.
Earl Nightingale, he said in there, he was like, he had an analogy. He was like, think about yourself sitting behind the most powerful machine. And he said, that's your mind. And now you can either let it drive you, because it's powerful, let it drive you, or you can take the reins and whip that motherfucker, pretty much.
Yeah.
And
control.
And also what you said about, you had an analogy about, I think you said there's doers, there's people who, what'd you say again? There's people who do. I ain't about to, that's neither here nor there. But anyways, my point is that, like, when we hit that crisis, what set us apart is just that we decided to do something about it. Because a lot of people, once they get to this point, wherever that is in their life, number one, they might just look at it and be like, man, that's just too much of a task. Like, I don't even want all that. Like, there's plenty of people who are just too lazy to actually implement these things. There's people who don't seek knowledge in general. Like, it's easy to just get caught up in the mind-numbing, everyday, just the noise, brother.
Mm-hmm.
The noise. Like, it's just easy to get caught up in those things. And I think the fact that we reacted to it the way that we did is just, that was real telling for me. That's why our mastermind group and stuff, it means so much, because I know that I'm with people who are on the same wavelength, and just like they had the same realization. And not only did they have the same realization, we all decided to act on it. Because you cannot act on it. You can just sit there and be like, damn, this is a lot.
There's 4 different ways for us to face this existential crisis. I don't want to call it necessarily quarter life or midlife, but just existential, because like you said, you went to work and you realized how monotonous it was, how repetitive the work would be, how unexciting it would be. I'm putting words in your mouth that you didn't say, but I'm sure you probably thought these things. But there's 4 different ways, and I've actually found the note. It was from April 10th. I wrote this at 7:44 in the morning. The first one is the victim. And the victim are those who don't know about this cycle and won't do anything to get out of it. So those are the people who consistently blame themselves. They're only focused on the circle of concern, and they're not necessarily trying to level up, or they don't even care enough to want to. Then we have the believer, and those are who don't know about this cycle but will do anything to get out of it. And I feel like we all started in that position, because as you'll see how the other ones kind of change, but we didn't necessarily know about how deep all of this would go. You know, for me, it started with one book, which was Outliers. And then the second book that really opened my mind was Rich Dad Poor Dad. And after that, it felt like my world was shattered. So I still didn't really know how deep this whole psycho philosophy world is, right? And then I was like, dog, I need to do whatever I can to get out of this mindset I'm in now. Not even the position I'm in financially or whatever. I need to get out of this mindset, because I knew something was wrong with it. But I was like, all right, I need to seek knowledge. That was number one for everything, right? Then we have the sloth. And this is where the tables kind of change, because when you get exposed to this situation, you still have 2 options to make. You always have a choice. You have the choice, which is the sloth, who do know about the cycle but won't do anything about it, because they then realize how much work it actually takes to become successful, how much work it actually takes to have financial independence or just peace. You feel me? Like, it's not, all of this isn't even about money for me. It's just about peace, bro. Like,
bro, a fulfilling.
Exactly. I want to live a fulfilled. If I die tomorrow, am I going to be able to meet the man at the gates and be like, or a woman, and be like, did I live a full life? Was I happy? Did I live without regrets? You know, a few years ago, I would say no. You feel me? And now I can say slowly, I'm getting to that point that I'm happier with the choices that I'm making on a regular basis. But then we have the doers. And this is where I would categorize us. We have those who know about the cycle and will do anything to get out of it. And that's literally the difference between us, or difference between the doers and the sloths, because it's that action up until that point. And action is the killer of all dreams. I've said it so many times, but when you actually take that action because you've not only been enlightened, you're like, all right, now it's really time to go, because you're like, okay, cool. Like, this is a path that's least traveled. I'm just going to go down this way because I clearly see where the majority of people are. That's actually something that I want to touch on too, is why do you think so many people are so mediocre, which is part of the topic of that article that you sent me. But I feel like that's why, because people see that road less traveled and they're like, nah, like that's too much work, so I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to go down this road that has been perfectly paved and you know exactly where it's going. That's why, I don't know, man. But yeah, those are the 4 different ways people can react to it.
Yeah. And speaking on that, in Think and Grow Rich, you know, bro, there's so many parallels in my mind right now based off of what you're saying. Like, it's hard to, you know. But just as simple as this, Dale Carnegie said, knowledge isn't power until it is applied. Because there's a notion that knowledge is power, which is not true at all, because that goes back to what we're talking about. That's like the slothing situation. They know, but
they know.
They don't apply it. That's even worse. Like,
I think so too.
Matter of fact, I think people who know and don't apply are even worse than people who are just completely ignorant.
100%.
because
Because
it's
you know.
yeah, like if you know, come on, bro. Like you have it right in front of you. Like if you have the wherewithal to be like, I should be seeking knowledge, but you don't. That's even worse than just living your whole life just ignorant to everything. Honestly, to me, um,
But that's a
and
question I have for you too then. Like, why do you feel like most people,
hmm,
whether or not they know it, if they're conscious about it or not, why do you think more people tend to aim for mediocrity then?
I think, but that's the thing. I don't think people aim for mediocrity. I think that it happens that way because they don't apply themselves. Like,
Mm.
I think that's really why. Like, I don't think that most people we went to high school with, and I could be wrong. I'm open to being wrong, but I just don't think that most people we graduated with are doing the stuff that we do on a daily basis. Like, I don't think people are applying these same principles. I don't think people are doing these practices. Um, and that's what it is. I think people, you know, if you ask most people, like, sure, they have big dreams. Like, I think everyone has, well, not everyone, but most people have big dreams. They want to live, blah, blah, blah. They want to do this, they want to do that. I think the world literally caters to average people in the mediocre lifestyle. Like, I think that's what it's set up to be, bro. Like, if you never take that step of seeking knowledge, bro, you will go through your life kind of thinking like, I guess this is what it's supposed to be. Like, this is what I was told. And they can still have dreams, but having a dream is never enough, bro. Like a dream, you got to put an action behind your dream. You got to seek knowledge behind your dream. That's what I think the difference is that, again, the things that people are failing to do is putting action behind their dreams, is seeking out the correct knowledge, things like that. Because again, I think if you ask most people, yeah, you have a dream, I want to be rich, I want to be famous, I want to do this, I want to be a rapper, I want to be, but like, what are you doing about that? And that's why I think people falter. It's like, okay,
Do you
what are you doing?
think do you think people feel like it's too easy to get to that level so they don't necessarily apply themselves? Because the reason why I'm going down this route and how I kind of lined up that question for you to answer is because I like to look at things in more context. Like the age that we live in, it's all social media. You feel me? Like I feel like I don't know because I didn't live back in those days, but I feel like success was looked at in a completely different lens. Like people understood that if you wanted to be an actress or an actor, you had to put in a lot of work because in the time frame I'm talking about is like 1940 and prior. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't have the internet to spread all of these
Right.
people. People are literally becoming so famous. And when I mean famous, I mean just a lot of followers on social media because that doesn't and the reason why I want to separate that because people on social media with hundreds of thousands of followers and millions of followers, that doesn't convert to currency to me, in my opinion, because not everybody knows how to utilize the platform. But back in the day, in my opinion, I feel like people actually respected success differently because I could be wrong, but I just think it's harder now for most people to get out of it because they see it so much. They see their celebrity on a regular basis if they're following them on Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram. They're literally seeing them. So they're inundated and they're like, oh, this must be normal. It must be a lot easier than I think to become successful, but they're mistaken because of the social media really amplifying it.
I think, well, yeah, that's a great point, and I believe that people, we always see the end result, we always see the wins, but we also don't see what's going on behind closed doors. And another thing, I think that what really messes it up is instant gratification, because
Mm,
today it's so easy, and this has a lot to do with social media and online and technology. You could blow up overnight,
mhm.
and I think because of that, that's why a lot of people think like, okay, I can just make a hit and I'm gonna be up. I can do this, I can do that, but like you don't see the millions of failures. Like we usually
Exactly.
we focus on the trophy, but we don't see all the other shit that's going on. Like so, and then another thing is because we're so wired through social media and stuff to get this instant gratification. Some people give up because they just can't delay it. They can't delay the payoff. Like they're just like, oh man, I put in the work for like a year and it didn't work. So it must not be, it must not be for me.
Yeah.
And that's why, matter of fact, speaking on that, I went through a whole assessment after the compound effect. I actually printed out the entire Darren Hardy, his book. It's a workbook. It says, bro, put down the top dozen qualities of the ideal man or woman. Then it keeps asking you to go down and go down so you can really focus on those three things, And my list ended up with respect, intuitiveness, and independence, and perseverance. And I just wanted to speak on that because I think really perseverance, when it comes to that gratification stuff, is like, bro, if you give up too soon, you haven't persevered at all. So it's like most people just give up straight up. Like, and it said that in many books, many articles that we read, it talks about how the difference between a lot of successful people and unsuccessful people is that the first time that they hit a roadblock, they just gave up.
Yeah.
Straight up. Like most successful people just have the ability to see through to the ends.
Resilience.
And then resilience, perseverance, and continue to put in the work to get there. A lot of people give up too soon. There's a lot of reasons, bro. There's a lot of reasons why. But I think that's one of the biggest.
I want to definitely add on to that too by talking about how I feel like people, and we've talked about this a few times too, but I feel like people, they define their goal, but I think they also define it too thorough that they think if they stray off of this path, if they say in 6 months I want to be here, 12 months I want to be there, in 2 years I want to be, and they stray off by that path by even 1%, they're like, oh, I'm a failure. Instead of looking at it like, I just need to readjust and refocus, because we're humans at the end of the day. Our goals, our purpose, everything is always going to continue to mold and change the deeper and deeper we dig into ourselves. So I feel like, especially for me, I'm talking from my own experience just because I felt this before. I felt like I was a failure for myself because this didn't hit, that didn't hit. And I started feeling like I wanted to give up, but I always knew, I was like, no, like that's not me. And I also knew, I was like, if this wasn't it, maybe I need to take a different approach. So I kind of had like this on and off, on the fence kind of feeling about it. But now I'm so comfortable with understanding that if it doesn't hit or if it doesn't go in the direction I wanted it to go, assess why, and then be comfortable with adjusting my parameters to, because my goal now is, I would say, is not necessarily so general that it's just like, oh, I want to make $1 billion or something. It's something a little bit more tailored to me, but also I know, especially with the things that I'm so interested in, it's like, okay, it's all right to readjust and move right and instead of moving left instead. So I feel like with some people, especially when they face that roadblock, they look at the roadblock and that's it, tunnel vision, but they don't realize you can go right, you can go left, you can go over that roadblock. You feel me? And readjust. Yeah. Appliances, like, come on.
Right. That's literally my desktop background.
Oh, wow.
As you continue, but I just wanted to throw this in there. I was reading something. There's a guy named Scott Adams. He says, if you study people who succeed, you will find that most of them follow systems and not goals. And the third step of the system is just literally being open. That's why one of my principles was just open-mindedness, to apply answers and readjust. Because yes, you can get too focused on that tunnel vision. And it says, if blank doesn't work, I created this myself, but I used the article to help me. What is your next move? Is there a more efficient way to do this? And what is your exit strategy? What is your next strategy?
Mm-hmm.
And it's that one trick thing. It's that one trick like mindset. It's like, this doesn't work without. You got to be open to a lot of the things that we want. You realize when working towards that, that's not even really what you want.
That's right.
And that's kind of why when I got on social media, I was telling you, like, when I first did it, I was like, man, there's so many things that I really thought I cared about, that I really just give no fucks about, bro, straight up.
Yeah.
Because,
Yeah.
and that speaks back to this current day and age, is like, again, with the noise, there's just so many things, and people don't realize this, that is affecting your subconscious mind. And we just allow it, and we just accept it as a regular thing. And it's like,
Regular.
bro,
Yep.
if you take a step back from that stuff and really just sit with yourself, that's why I was so heavy on the fact that, like, if you're not taking this quarantine right now, like, you literally have no excuse to not sit with yourself and just be like, okay, like,
Mm-hmm.
what do I actually want to do? Like, what is life? Like, you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
existential
What
questions.
is life? Yeah.
Yeah, bro, like, what am I doing? And like, because you can't even go out. Like, well, when it first started, you couldn't go. You can go out now. But it's like, if you just sit with yourself, and that's why I applaud you, and I still want to do this. I want to go to the getaway house.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, bro, you think that's what you want to do, but that's because your subconscious mind has been influenced by a lot of just trash. And if you really take a time to sit with yourself, you'll realize that actually this might be better for you. Actually, there's another opportunity over here. Or even if that is what you really want to do, and that's your passion, that's your purpose. Okay, maybe there's another way that I could attack this. Maybe I'm not doing it right. Like,
Yes.
and yeah, that just goes along with that whole tunnel vision thing. It's like, bro, you have to be able to adjust. They say, and I'm gonna speak on business, but they say, like, most or millionaires and billionaires go through like 30 business ideas before they actually hit the one that actually
That
works.
one. Yeah.
And that's, again, delayed gratification. It's like most people are like, okay, I need to do this and it needs to work. Okay, but what if it doesn't? Then what? You know, like, you need to be able to readjust.
Yeah.
I'm not stop me, you know. So
There's a few things that you talked about with that I found interesting. And the first one I want to talk about before I forget was just how you were talking about the subconscious, man. And in Blink by Malcolm Gladwell and Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, both of these books, I swear, they were like, they wrote the same book, bro. Like, it's crazy, but just Daniel Kahneman decided to expand a lot more, and he wrote it after. I don't know, but they talk about this, man, and I just talked about this in, I think, my last podcast or video too. Our subconscious is constantly under attack, constantly. So if we can't even filter what is coming into our subconscious, there's no way we can even be consciously aware of it. And that's what I think is so sick about it, is because some people might not even realize that they're just being brainwashed and hypnotized this whole time. And that's what blows my mind. So when you talked about that, I really think it's such a dual-edged sword, because some people, they allow it to happen, and then some people just don't even realize it because it's so ingrained. So I felt like that was really key to touch on, just because of the fact that people don't realize how much under attack our subconscious is, man. Like, and I think that's so key.
yeah. And let me throw out 2 book recommendations. I'll say this: The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. That's one of them. And
That's on
then
my list.
it is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And then I want to speak on this one now. The Power of Now. The Power of Now, bro.
That's on my list too.
By Eckhart Tolle. So
Yeah.
Eckhart Tolle,
Eckhart Tolle. Yeah.
I've been looking into him a lot because, like, bro, bro, you know my SWOT analysis, which I keep there to this day. You've seen it yourself. You picked it up.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
SWOT. One of my weaknesses I discovered was just not being able to, I think, over preparing myself and looking too far into the future, and forgetting to sit with, like, my present, just like my state right here. And like, because once I really thought about that, I'm like, I've heard people say that for example, once you hit that first meal, you think you're going to feel like, oh man, but in reality, you still want more.
Yep.
So it's like, do you want to live in a constant state of just always, like, so far ahead that you literally forget about your present state, your mind
Mm-hmm.
right now? And I think something that I was watching this YouTuber, his name is whatever. It's like Greg Craig or something like that. Um and I like what he said. He said, think about your thoughts as passing clouds. And only attach yourself to the ones that you really want to, go deeper into. So he was thinking like, okay, if there's a negative thought in your mind, you don't have to give that your energy. You can literally just think of it as like, okay, that's a negative thought. And of course we're going to have negative thoughts. It's about what you do with those. So he was saying like, literally don't reach out for that one. Let it pass.
Mm-hmm.
And then next something positive comes up, that's when you grab that one and look deeper into it. And I think that's real important for just presence, just focusing on what you can control in the now and just working towards that. And then there's a parallel between Eckhart Tolle, his teachings, and Stranger's Secret to Success.
Mm-hmm.
We always think that, success is. And remember I wrote, this is my writing from The Stranger's Secret to Success.
Yeah.
I literally like that low-key changed me too. That was another very, very eye-opening one. So 100%. Shout out.
No problem, bro.
It was saying in both of these things, and the teaching is that like success is when you get X amount. Success is when you achieve X. When in reality, he says success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. So, bro, people like us, bro, we're already successful. You got to think about that.
Exactly.
We are already successful because we are realizing and pursuing a goal. Like we have a purpose and a goal, and we're pursuing that. And the journey is also success. Like we need to stop thinking of success as a destination and more so as a process. We're already successful, bro. And it's gonna be, since we're already successful, I say this, those goals and those milestones, they're gonna feel that much better when we reach them because we know all the things that we had to do to get there. But we're already successful. We can't think of it as a destination.
I agree. It's funny that you said that too, because in my opinion, if you have a goal that you've defined and you've been able to actualize it with different mile markers, I just want to call them, right? You have a goal that realistically might take you 10 years. So year 1, you need to do this. Year 3, moving forward. When you hit those mile markers, you're like, okay, cool. This is dope. This is dope. Like, and you're going to, in my opinion, you're going to enjoy getting those mile markers more than you even realizing that you're going to get to that destination. So I 100% agree with that. And it's funny that you said that because that was actually one of my questions. How is success defined? Is it the journey or the destination? But another flip side to that is how does that change for different types of people? Like what type of person would, I mean, it might be an easy answer, but what type of person would define it as the destination? Why would they define it like that?
A person who would define it as the destination is someone who, again, is living too far ahead of themselves. Because, again, it's good to have goals. It's good to have the milestones, the mile markers. But if you lack presence, you realize that you went all these years or this whole part of your life without even enjoying that. And who wants to live like that? If you really break it down, who wants to say, of course, yeah, it's cool to say you're successful, you've reached something, but if you wasted your whole, process and you were miserable that entire time, that's bad. Like no one wants to say that. So yeah. I think that's, the difference between the people who, that's pretty much how I view it. What do you think?
I agree. And I agree with kind of a catch-22, I guess. I don't know the right word or right phrase, but the reason why I also would say even people like us would look at the destination like a success, because you kind of mentioned it earlier, when we actually attain what we're striving for, it's going to feel that much better. So that will feel like a success. But I also feel like circling back to the Stoicism thing, when we're on our deathbed, right? And we've lived the life that we wanted to live without regrets, completely like just very fulfilling life. That's the end of the journey. That's the destination, death. And I feel like we'll look at it and be like, yeah, I lived a successful life and then die. But but yeah, I like that's kind of like a caveat is the word that I'm looking for. That's one of the caveats I would kind of say would be kind of the differentiating thing too. But regardless, I definitely have been all about just the journey
To
because
speak on that, man, even bro, ever since I discovered extreme ownership, which again, all these concepts, they're not crazy, bro. Like, I think if you said a lot of the stuff we were talking about to most people, they would agree. But their actions don't back that up. But that's another point. But anyway, it's really simple. It's like, bro, you're in control of your life. Like, you literally can make or break your own destiny. And that was real important for me. And I'm like, I really did try to make alibis for myself when things didn't go right.
and that's what
You
I
know,
wanted to actually touch on too. It was like when you started realizing those alibis and those excuses that you would make, because this is what he was talking about in the podcast, when him and a bunch of his people on the crew started understanding understanding excuses in the sense of war, and then they brought that into the business world. When you started noticing those alibis that you would make, when you started noticing those excuses, and then you start interacting with other people, and then they say something that is an excuse, how do you react or how do you feel?
well, I don't react like physically or show it because I try to be when I talk to people. I don't want to come off as like talking to people in a condescending way or just misunderstanding. I try to understand everybody's paradigm because everyone's
Hmm.
paradigm is different. And bro, I was at that point too. Like I get it. Like I can't talk down on anybody, but I do try to offer a different perspective.
And when I meant by react, I meant exactly what you kind of said, like how you try to approach the situation, and also, I mean, I feel like one way too is you recognize that what they just said was possibly an excuse. So then you open your mind to why they said that, and then you kind of proceed from there. So that's kind of how I look at it too. When I see, or usually when I hear people that either try to hit me up and then they just start talking, it usually sounds like an excuse or victim mentality. And I look at it, okay, is this really them blaming the world, or are they going to take extreme ownership about it? And then how can I help? Really, that's really the main thing, is like, how can I help?
How can I help? Um, and speaking on that, man, since really just viewing my life as completely 100% in my control, and whatever is not out of my control, not to worry about. It's extreme ownership, but with stoic philosophy mixed in there. Because yes, you are in control of your life, but there are things that you can't control, and when that comes up, I just say, okay, well, if I can't control it, I'm not going to put my energy towards it. But I wanted to say that even my political philosophy has changed, bro. Like the reason why is because, especially in the Black community, man, we're all like, for some reason, we're all just automatically just like Democrat.
Right.
Why? I started to wrestle with that recently. Why? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Because
Mm-hmm.
we're so married to the Democratic Party, bro. Like they haven't really done anything for us, honestly. Like they talk about it. They talk about it, but they don't do anything. And to be honest, man, I might get some hate for this, but I kind of respect Trump in a way because he just says it. Like he's those people are easier to deal with because they'll just tell you what it is straight up. And I might not fuck with you, but at least you told me what it was. Other people, on the other hand, like a lot of people in the Democratic Party, bro, are
Shiesty.
shiesty, racist, uh, but they'll package it. They'll package it to where you like what they're telling you. But that's even more dangerous because they can backdoor you. And I mean, I shouldn't get too like, it's not all about politics. This is in general. But my point with that was that going back to the whole, because we started with the victim mentality and stuff like that. I started thinking about like social programs, welfare, and stuff like that. And of course, it has it's good. I'm not like, if anything, I'm more leaning towards that than conservative side. But I got to thinking, I was like, man, like that like these programs and stuff, they really kind of train you to become
That
victim.
victim.
Like, it's like, oh man, like I need this, and I'm so down bad that I need to do this, or I need this program or whatever. And again, I'm not shitting on the programs. Like, these do great things for people. All I'm saying is that the liberal philosophy, it trains you to live your life as a victim. That's all I'm saying. It trains you to live your life as a victim because you're constantly seeking other people's help, other people's hand when it comes to your own problems. And again, there's systematic things that, that affect us specifically. But I think, like, we fail to realize, a lot of like blacks who are married to the Democratic parties, like, there's a lot of things we are in control of. Like, we don't need to ask their
Or
hand for help.
handout.
There's certain things that, man, if you saved your money, stop spending it on Jordans and
Gucci, no bull.
If you stop spending it on Gucci and Prada every paycheck, like, you wouldn't even need X. You could save and invest and do what you need to do. And, like, yeah, that's all I was saying, is that it's just like that liberal, like, mentality. It just breeds for victimization. So,
And you see, the funny thing is, I agree with you 100% because that's the exact thought process I had. I literally was like, why am I a Democrat? And then I started digging deeper into what is their whole platform built on. And it's, again, I don't want to shit on it because I know it's, especially for somebody like me, my worst dark days in my life, like, that's, we had food stamps, you feel me? Unemployment benefits. Like, it was very helpful when it was necessary. But some people, I feel like this is where you were getting to, they count on it, they rely on it. You know what I'm saying? Like, even with this whole thing going on right now, some people, they don't even want to go back to work because they're making more money this way. And in my mind, it was like, I was going to get it regardless. Like, I was going to do it regardless. But that's just being extremely owning myself, you feel me? Extremely aware of what I'm capable of doing and not accepting that handout, because if I know it's there, cool. But that, you have a choice to take it or not at the end of the day. So
right.
It's funny that you talked about that. That was the exact thought process I had.
Exactly. And my thing is, man, look, whether I get help or not, man, at the end of the day, it's on me. Like, I can't sit and wait around for things to work for me. That's another difference between a lot of successful and unsuccessful people. They're waiting on something to come for them. They're waiting for the right day. They're waiting for when it happens. And it's like, bro, nah. Like, you just got to get up and do this shit. Like, you can't wait on that. Again, there's things that help you, but your philosophy can't be like, oh, I got to wait for the perfect time. I got to wait for the perfect day. Oh, I just got to wait until this works. You just got to do it straight up.
There's never a perfect timing. And that was in the first section of the 4-Hour Work Week. He literally said word for word, there's never a perfect timing. And I think that's just so true. Like, there's not. There won't be. And if you're waiting for the stars to align, you're gonna die before that ever happens, and then you'll never live that fulfilled life.
Yeah. So yeah, bottom line, really, just you got to take ownership of your life, and yeah.
And I want to bring up this quote that was in that article that you sent me, because this was also in the 4-Hour Work Week, and I sent you that video of me just freaking out on the phone because Tim Ferriss said, "It's lonely at the top. 99% of the people in the world are convinced they are incapable of achieving great things, so they aim for the mediocre. The level of competition is thus fiercest for realistic goals, paradoxically making them the most energy and time consuming." And what I found very interesting after I've read that, and that article you sent me was amazing, but I decided to look into it more. Like, what is the real distribution of wealth? Peep this. There's only about I think it was about 21 to 2,500 billionaires in the entire world, like maximum 2,500 billionaires. So that group is very small. Like literally everybody can, I'm sure they know each other. For multimillionaires and millionaires, there's only about 36 million of them. Last time I checked, we have surfacing around 7.8 billion people in the entire world. So it just blew my mind when I put those numbers together, because I was like, the fact that the amount of multimillionaires and billionaires are still under 40 million people, that means
Uh-huh.
literally everybody else, including us, of course, for now, but everybody else is okay and maybe aren't really necessarily striving to get to that next level. And in my mind, I'm like, that's so crazy. Like, that makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you put up a job, I mean, and this is why McDonald's is so big, but if they put up a job in some hood where jobs are very, scarce, and they're paying at $15 an hour for a cashier or something, they're probably going to get 2,000, 3,000 applications. I'm exaggerating like crazy. But then in that same neighborhood, say you want to have a networking event or a real estate conference or something to grow, to give people some more empowerment, guarantee you won't see 100 people inside there.
Not at
And
all.
that's what kind of blows my mind, because I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You know what I'm saying? If more people are trying to achieve less because they realize, or maybe they're just afraid of thinking big, to kind of bring that back, then yeah, there's gonna be so much competition for people to be average. And that's the reason why me personally, that's why I just decided, nah, I'm gonna ask for the moon and the stars for everything. Because
Mhm.
worst case scenario, I get a no. Best case scenario, I get a yes. Like, what is really to lose at this point?
And now I'm glad you said that, because it made me think of how earlier I was saying that most people have big dreams, but then I thought about it and I was like, of course, yeah, they have dreams, but a lot of people are intimidated by their own goals. A lot of
Mm,
people are scared to fail. Like a lot of people, like, man, it's no, like, oh man, it's no way. In the same breath that we were talking about how people think it's really attainable because of social media and stuff like that, there's also the flip side to that, in the fact that people are like, man, that's big. Like I can't even. There's no way I could even do that. So all right, I'm just gonna accept, a regular life. And I'm just gonna
mhm.
gawk at. I'm gonna gawk at those who really did attain it, because I think it's too big for me. I think it's too big, and I think just having that, thinking anything too big for you is too big for you. Is just, man, that can be real detrimental to your subconscious. Like,
Yeah, before you even take action on anything, you put yourself at a disadvantaged position.
exactly, and that's the whole, like, because I'm not even gonna lie. Before I started doing affirmations and all visual and all that stuff, like I probably thought of stuff was super. I'm like, bro, it's no way I'm gonna be a millionaire. Like what? Like that's crazy. Like that's that's for people who, you know,
Born with a
like
silver spoon, they had a big network,
they were
went to
set.
Harvard.
They were set for life. Like they're. But then I'm like, wait a minute now. Like, nah, not really. Like if I really apply myself and do the things that need to be done, I could be there too. And that just taught me a lot about just perspective, man. Like, yeah, you might not go after it because you think it's too big, straight up. Like, you might just be like, man, I'm gonna just live this life. And another reason why I do all this is because, man, like, God forbid, if my folks would have died tomorrow, bro, they wouldn't be leaving me much. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, so that's part of what drives me, and why I get up and do what I do, is because I want to be able to pay it forward. I want to be able to, have generational wealth. Um, so even that alone, sometimes when I get burnt out, I'm just like, man, that keeps me going. And
Yeah.
I set up a whole when I was telling you about the personal fulfillment thing I have up here, and it says find your whys. I put three three whys for each aspect: the business, the finances, lifestyle, all that. And I'll read a couple of them. So, like for business, one of them is because I want the ability to control my income and choose my own work hours. because I want the tax benefits of entrepreneurship, and because I want ownership of my time. And then I'll do something that has nothing to do with money, health and well-being, because I want to live a youthful life, because I want to be around long enough to enjoy the payoff, and because I want to be medically self-sufficient and unreliant on the healthcare system. And that was about like just like the physical aspect of life. Like I live of a life where I feel good and I'm not dependent on, medicine or. And then let me look at family and relationships. Because I want to create generational wealth, pay it forward. Because I want to be fully present in my kids' lives. And then also because I want to continually make my family proud and help them in any area possible. Sorry, the font's kind of small. But yeah, so like these whys, I think we talked about this a long time ago, but those 3 whys.
Yes.
And really like, so what are you actually doing it for? Ask yourself 3 times why.
Yeah, why that? You know what I'm saying? What are you actually doing for? Okay, so why that? Now, why did you think that? Now, why? Just keep going down until you get it. You feel me?
Yeah. And so that's another thing. I think a lot of people have goals, a lot of goals that are misguided actually, but they're misguided
because go ahead. Actually, I think he was about to answer that.
They're misguided because they're not actually doing it for a particular reason. And if you don't know why you're doing something, you're gonna burn out. If you don't really know why you're doing something, you have no motivation. Like you're just doing it just because they said it was cool to be a millionaire, so I'm gonna just do it. But why do you want to be a millionaire? What are you gonna do with that money? Like what? So you have money, but like what does your life look like? So I think being clear just about that, just your whys, the underlying principles of everything, that can change a lot too. Because
oh yeah,
when we were talking about giving up before you get there, if you don't have these whys, just like if you really sit with yourself after you failed at one thing, it's like there's no reason to even move forward because you're not doing it for anything. You're just doing it because everyone says you should be a millionaire. Everyone says you should, have your own business. Everyone says like they say they want ownership of their time. And actually, even further than that, I went real deep when I was soul searching, man. I was like, yes, I do want to be a millionaire. Why? Because when you're a millionaire, you can own your time and do this and that. And a lot of people stop there. But I'm like, okay, why do you want ownership of your time? And I came down after asking myself why so many times. I came down to the conclusion that really the real prize, bro, is just being present. That's the real prize, and that's why I want to read The Power of Now, because that is the real prize, bro. You just want to live presently in your life. You want to be as stress-free as possible. Of course, stress is always going to be there, but you want to be as stress-free as possible, and you want to be able to just do what you want and have freedom. And that's literally the epitome of presence.
Yep.
Just being able to live in the now. So that's why I was like, okay, it's really starting to make sense when I break it down layer by layer and peel it back some more. So
the power of now, bro, like it's key. And that is one of the thoughts that started generating in my brain because, again, as you mentioned, when I went to the getaway house, that's what I did. I literally just sat there with myself, no distractions, one book to really help catalyze my thoughts. And I started thinking, I was like, yo, why do I want to do this? And I kept going down, 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 down. And then I got to that realization that, yeah, we want to have stress. And I have to keep referencing 4-Hour Work Week because he actually refers to two different types of stress. We all know there's good stress and there's bad stress. So bad stress is distress. And then good stress is eustress, EU, like euphoria. And I started sitting with that. And I came to the realization when I went to the cabin and thought, I don't want to live so far in the future. And I worded this differently, but I said I don't want to live so far in the future that I'm just constantly stressing about how to get there. And then I don't want to be living so far in the past that I'm just for being regretful and depressed or whatever the case is, or angry that I didn't do that or do this. I want to just be able to have so much power in where I'm at presently, because that's the only time I'm fully alive. So why worry about what already happened? Can't change that. Why worry about what's happening in the future? Because what I'm doing now is going to dictate what's going to happen in the future. So it's like,
Process.
focus on now. Yeah, like process of elimination, man. Man.
Any
Honestly,
point?
right now, bro, like I'm just so mind blown, because the fact that you're bringing up stuff that I've been thinking about so much is crazy to me, bro. It's really just mind blowing.
Yeah, this is why, bro. I tell you, like, I love when these conversations happen because, bro, I can finally give my shit off to somebody who understands, bro. Like, I be like,
Yeah.
I promise you, like, because, bro, out of all the people you talk to on a daily basis, how many people do you encounter that you feel like truly on this journey? Because there's a lot of people who say they are, but I don't, you know what I mean? I don't think that they're really applying themselves as much as they could be. So like when I do talk to people like you, like Bees, like Nas, bro, like my man Damani, I'm just like, it's refreshing, bro. It's refreshing because I'm understood. Everyone's doing the same thing. I'm able to hold people accountable. They're able to hold me accountable. And that has nothing to do. I'm just saying, like I really appreciate these talks, bro. You don't understand, like.
I feel like it's all well rounded in general. Like it can't just be one aspect. That's why bringing up that text that you sent to us, I was so happy that you sent that, man. Because like I don't ever want anybody to think it's always just about money, man. Because if that's what you want, man, and you finally get it, you're not going to be happy. So when you brought that up, I was like, yo, that's so perfect. And like you said, man, or like you were asking, the people I encounter on a daily basis is already very slim. You feel me? Because I'm always usually just by myself. But any interaction I have with people in general, they're only a small hand, like literally 1 out of 10 people, if that. You know, I don't even know if I encounter that many people in a month now, but like, real stuff though, like you, Nas, Bees, Shola, man, like I really feel like we're all on this journey together, and you can really see it based off of how people move, how they grow, how they talk, just so many different things that I'm just like, yeah, like you're definitely on your way. And I feel like that going back to how we really started linking up again and talking was something you said. And I hope I have it screenshot in my phone. I screenshot a lot of different like motivational stuff, so I'm sure I can find it in my photos. But you said something one time, I believe it was like November, December last year, and that, again, my signals are always out so much. So when I saw that, I was like, yo, he's on his journey. I need to talk to him, because I've been feeling like I'm alone this whole time. And I'm so glad I did, bro, because clearly.
Bro, telling you, bro, and I don't think I would be, bro, if I wasn't talking to y'all, I probably wouldn't even be as far along as I am. Seriously, like I probably would have just my mental would have combusted by now. Like I probably feel like I wouldn't be able to like share, you know, get feedback or anything like that. So it's been real important for me. That signal. And then you sent me a real long message, and I threw that up on the story because you understood me. And I was like, "Bet." Like
Sheesh.
December 1st, because I screenshotted your response, and I screenshotted a bunch of stuff when you had the read story on your phone. The
Oh
read,
yeah.
remember?
Yeah. It's still up there. It's just, deactivated.
Yeah. You
Nah,
know
man.
what I'm going to talk about? No PMO. I tell you why I'm at. My whole life I've been living thinking that it was normal to feel like I didn't know because before I read about transmutation, I just thought that was normal. Like I didn't think that you could really redirect sexual energy and use it for the best, for the better.
Mm-hmm.
So like, once I got a taste of no PMO and like the way I've been clear and focused and like I've been able to cut through the gusto that
Yeah.
like I need that.
That little pep in your step.
Bro, I need it. I need it.
Yeah.
Like it helps me. I need it, bro. So like, but I even went back to the way of the superior man. I went back to Think and Grow Rich because Think and Grow Rich talks about it.
100%.
And I had to recalibrate after that day because I was like, man, you were on like you were at like a month. I was on like day 15, and then day 15 is where I fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
And then because I think day 15 is where I really started to, no, I would say like day 13, 14, 15. That's when I really started to reap some of the benefits. Like,
Start
that's when
noticing the clarity.
that's when I could really start seeing change. Because the first week, I don't know, nothing really, like, it was cool, but nothing really changed. But when I got to that 13, 14, 15, I really was like, okay, I can actually kind of feel it a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's where I fucked up. So honestly, I haven't even made it a full month yet because I fucked up last week. But like my point in that is just like, bro, I'm at the point where, yeah, like I'm so happy about that. And like what it created for me is that, like, I don't give a fuck about nothing no more, bro. As great of a feeling as it is, I'm at the point, I'm telling you, I'm gonna tell women, like, I don't want to. Like, I don't even want to. Like,
I wanted to talk about with that is just the fact that day 14 is when I really started noticing that focus and clarity. And that's when I just off of a whim, that's when I started the YouTube channel, because I was like, yo, I need to talk on this, because all my life I was living this way, and now I see it the real way. I'm like, bro, what? It's crazy. So like now, bro, like it's so crazy, because I remember, when was this? I guess it was this morning, basically. Since I've made it so far now, I'm on day 35 of taking cold showers. I was like, in my mind, for literally a split second, I was like, maybe I'll take a hot shower today. Just off a whim. Just literally just a random thought. And the way this ties back in it was because I've built in so much discipline toward no PMO. I had that thought and immediately was like, no, you don't deserve a hot shower right now, bro. Like, and I told myself the next time I'll take a hot shower at one is when I'll hit this mile marker. And it'll just be that one. And then I gotta earn the next one. That's literally how I look at it. So now with the whole PMO thing and transmuting energy, focus, clarity, bro, like I literally can't even explain with words how it really feels, because I'm such a skeptic. I used to think, and I would watch a bunch of videos and I'd be like, this is fake. Like, people are just trolling. Like, there's no way. But I'm going through it myself and I'm just sitting here like, fool. And I used to think I was pretty sharp. Like, but now I look back like, bro, you were the dullest knife inside the shell, bro.
That's the part that was the worst part for me, is that I really thought that I was at my sharpest. Like, I thought I was very intelligent. I thought I was on my P's and Q's. I thought I was able to cut through. And then, like, to find out that no, you could tap in even more.
Yes.
That was crazy. That was crazy, bro. Cause I already thought I was pretty, like, on my shit, you know, like, yeah, like.
And that's exactly how I felt too, because I didn't start, again, I'm on day 54, man. I didn't start this until late March. I think it was literally March, what is it? March 29th. I started it. But 2 weeks in, that's when I really started going hard with VMG. And I didn't put those two things together at first, because I was like, there's no way. Like, I've had VMG for a whole year now, but I started realizing and I started digging deeper. I was like, fuck, I can really apply myself. I really apply myself now, bro. It's amazing, man. And that's why I think, and to tie in Jocko Willing thing, to tie in Think and Grow Rich, to tie in all of these things, is just the fact that when you finally get exposed to all of this stuff, bro, you don't want to go back. Like, in my opinion.
I don't, bro. Like, I told you, I tell it like it is now. Fool. Like, I really don't. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And honestly, bro, I want to speak on, even forget transmutation for a second. Matter of fact, I want to read How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Great book.
That's something I want to, bro, that's a goal of mine. I want to be very well spoken, bro. I've come a long way still, because, like, by nature, I'm an introvert, bro. By nature, I don't talk much because, like, you know me, bro. I'm a real chill dude. Like, I don't really.
The chillest.
Like, I don't. And, like, if I feel like, but to be honest, the most animated I probably get is, like, when I be talking to y'all. Like, it's like, if you catch me, bro, on a regular day, bro, I wouldn't even be doing all this, bro. I'm cool, like, to the max. Like,
it's facts.
Bro, I'm excited about this shit. That's why I be so animated when I'm talking to y'all, because I'm like, bro, finally. But anyway, what I was saying is like, bro, I want to be well spoken. Like, that's a goal of mine. Like, I want to be better at public speaking. I want to feel comfortable. Cause like I'm not afraid of public speaking, but I'm also not too good at it. Like I want to be able to deliver. If I had to do my own TED talk one day, with shit, why couldn't I? Fuck it.
Exactly. I was about to say that.
Yeah, like I want to be able to kill that jump, bro. Like,
yeah.
And because a lot of the stuff I say right now, I don't think I'm terribly spoken, but I'm definitely not like well spoken. I think a lot of the points I have, they can be more concise. I think I can word things better, but it's all part of the process.
It is, yeah.
But what I'm saying is, and mentorship is one of my goals too. I want to be a mentor to young Black men, right? And I just think that when you're well spoken, people are just straight up more receptive. Like it makes sense because you're not telling them a bunch of hubba lubba. Like it makes because you're well spoken, they understand you, you're concise, and you make sense, like straight up. So that's one of my like long-term goals. Is just not even long-term, just become more well-spoken as I go. Like
an ongoing goal.
Yeah, be able to develop how you talk, how you communicate, how you deal with people. Yeah, bro.
I think with that, you describing part of your SAVERS thing, journaling, that's going to really help. Like that was one of my first, well, not even, that was actually my second goal. My first goal when I started journaling was just to get these thoughts out of my head. You feel me? Because man, again, like a year ago, this is when I kind of started on that journey. So I was like, damn, bro, like I got so much shit to talk and nobody to talk to. So I was like, fuck it, I'm going to talk to myself. So it was super raw, super unfiltered, especially a lot of my audio journals, stumbling on my words, couldn't really get my thoughts out in words because the thoughts were preceding what I was able to say. But then over time, my second goal with journaling was, wow, okay, this is a really great way for me to get these really raw thoughts out. So then when I actually can talk to somebody about it, this can be essentially the second or third time I've said it. So it comes off a little bit smoother, a little bit more polished up. And then that's literally just the reason why I wanted to start the YouTube channel, why I want to do the podcast, because that is, again, one of my goals too. I just want to be well spoken because a lot of these ideas and thoughts, people need to get it, man. Like, and I really feel like people don't get it, but I think it's mainly because the distribution of this knowledge is so limited. So more people just don't have access to it in a way. So it's like, okay, if I can at least do my part for my community, cool. Hopefully that inspires someone else to do their part in their community. Cool. And then it just kind of goes from there and just keeps growing and growing. So yeah, I feel you, bro.
And I want to shout out to you, bro. Even when I realized one day, I was like, damn, Zach be sending me voice messages. And he be talking for a minute on the jumps without stumbling. Like you might have one stumble throughout the whole like 2-3 minute jump. And I'm like, damn, bro. So I started replying to you with voice messages. I'm like, damn, I can only get like 30 seconds in without stumbling. I'm like, okay, I kind of want to like be able to speak better. Like I want to be able to communicate. People are more receptive. I'm like, so then I started trying doing the voice messages, bro.
And change the game.
Even since, because I remember the first time you sent me a voice message, I didn't reply to a voice message. I didn't reply to it with the voice message. Then you kept doing it. I'm like, all right, bro, I'm going to try. Because, like, I'm not about to sit here. You be giving me, like, whole 3-minute concepts. And I'm not about to sit here and type. So I started doing that. First couple of jumps be, like, 30 seconds. But then, like, as I've started doing that even more, shout out to you, like, I can do it longer now without having hiccups, without, like, running into problems. Or even if I do, no, see, that's not even the thing. Fuck that. You can have a hiccup, but your ability to recover after you stumble, that's really the key because everybody stumbles. Like, even the best outspoken people stumble. But I think that was my problem. If I stumbled, I would kind of like just freeze up. I think having the ability to like, okay, you said something wrong, but just, all right, pick it up, come on, just like get back to what you just keep going. I think that's something that like I've gotten better at. Even just by us, even us having this dialogue constantly has helped me with that.
100%.
Because I have to create long form thoughts, bro. Like, bro, we're at it's almost 6 o'clock.
We're going on hour 3, literally.
Yeah,
it's 2 hours and 59 minutes.
So that's what I'm saying. Even having this dialogue in the sense of like becoming more well spoken is just helping me a lot, bro. because we go back and forth, and sometimes we're talking for like 5 minutes at a time. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
100%. I agree, bro. And that, bro, like, I don't even know what to say about that because you worded it so well. But it's just practice, bro. Like that. I did the voice memo not even because I wanted to get better at speaking, but I guess that is a way to do it. I don't really send that many voice memos anymore. It's just you and B's that be texting, bro. Like I'll be texting nobody in Nash now, but I just do it just out of pure efficiency, bro. Like I realized how slow I type. I've never been a texter, bro. I fucking hate texting. I would
But
much rather talk, bro. Like, maybe that's
man,
just our old school upbringing. You feel me? Our parents were the type to call their lovers on the phone when they were growing up. Like that's how I was raised. So like me, if I can't, get you on the phone right then and there, the fact that they released that voice memo, I was like, this is perfect because I've tried to do the talk to text. And that shit never works. You feel me? Like I'll say fuck and I'll put duck. Like little things like that. So when they did the voice memos, I was like, this is perfect. So just out of pure efficiency, I thought I thought it was a great addition to just Apple in general. I definitely think because we're so similar in how we think, how we were both naturally an introvert, you've always been like super chill to me. Like it's been like to a level where I think you're just suave as fuck. You feel me? Always had that dead ass, bro. Like no joke, like for real. You have like that Harlem kind of swag. You feel me? And I always admired that. I was like, damn, hell is smooth as fuck, bro. But I've always
appreciate
been no problem, man. And I've just been just chill. I'm a very observant person, just naturally, like very analytical. But I've learned that even being an introvert, you can still be able to shine. Because I don't know why I had this conception in my mind that even though I know I'm an introvert, I thought that that should be an excuse, an alibi for me to not get better at speaking.
you. I was
And I was like,
literally
no, fuck that.
about to say them exact words,
Yeah,
bro. I don't mean to cut you off, bro, but
yeah,
like
no,
I was literally about to be like, bro, I used to use introversion as
as
an
an
act
excuse.
to be like, okay, well, I guess you don't have to be. You're naturally an introvert, but I'm like, bro, that does an introvert can be well spoken. That don't mean,
Steve
you know,
Jobs was an introvert, bro.
yeah,
Elon
like,
Musk is an introvert. Like,
yeah, bro. So
yeah, man. So that's also one of the reasons why I want to get better at speaking as well. Yeah, no, I definitely feel like being able to convey your thoughts really clearly and concise. I think that's a really important thing because I go back to old conversations I had just in my head, not even like audio or whatever the case is. And I can really just imagine myself and relive that situation. Like you didn't even get to the point that you wanted to get at. I used to lose track of what I wanted to say so much. And I think that comes with reading a lot. I think that comes with studying very successful people. I also think it just comes with just natural practice of doing it like how we're doing it right now and taking bullet notes as well. I think that's super key. Like that kind of really helps me stay focused in a way, but I can still be creative within those guidelines. So yeah,
and speaking to that, bro. So when I used to have important phone calls, like, okay, I'll tell you, this is one of my, when we conclude, I wanted to go over like wins for the week, what you can
def.
improve on. But fuck it, we can do that now. But anyway, so one of my things was I talked with a financial advisor on Tuesday. It's Tuesday. And I was thinking about even how my approach has changed to conversation. Like sometimes I used to just go in there blind, like I can figure it out, like on the whim. Like I can figure it out. Eventually, I want to be able to do that better. But for now, like I was like, one of my tasks, I use an app called Todoist for my daily task thing. And so the whole weekend, I came up with a list of questions that I can ask during that meeting. So I don't just like, I'm not just rambling. So
Yeah.
I came up with a list of like 15 questions. I didn't even get to all of them because a lot of them, and I've come to realize a lot of the questions is just when you talk to intelligent people, but they get answered in between the lines anyway. So
Yeah.
um, I really sat there. I was like, and I didn't let myself get up until I came up with that list. I was like, nah, bro, you need to have, and this is like a family advisor. He's been with our family for a long time.
Word.
But yeah, so I was like, okay, well, let me come up with a list of questions. And having that open on Google Sheets while I was on the phone. And then I realized, like, I thought I was going to be looking at it constantly, but I was like, when I went through it before the phone conversation, everything was just that much more natural. Like I was able to go in and out of conversation. He would get a
Yep.
point. I would touch on that, and my segue ability is a lot better. Like he would say something, and I would be like, "Bet." Like I had a question about this. Now I can bring this up without being
Yeah.
awkward about it.
Yeah.
Like even that alone your segueing is a skill in and of itself, especially in
A
podcasting.
transition. Yeah.
And especially in podcasting. I realized because I listened to my one guilty pleasure, not guilty pleasure, but like I listened to the Joe Budden podcast, like faithfully.
Word.
I listen, and they talk about a lot of BS on there, but that's like one of
Yeah.
my that's one of my releases. Like that's one
Yeah.
of my
Joe Rogan is mine.
Yeah. So, cause like majority of the podcast stuff I listen to is like self-development, like real estate stuff, but Joe Budden podcast, I mean, no, I'm not even gonna say
Entertainment.
it's entertainment, yeah.
Yeah.
And even in the entertainment, there's still like coded messages and they still touch on important
Because
stuff.
they're successful, bro.
Yeah. But I realized, I was like, bro, these niggas have found a way to like segue well. And that alone, like being able to move on to the next topic in speech without being like, okay, we're done with this. Okay, now let's do this. Just being able to push something on top and compound till you reach the end is like, that's a skill, bro. And I want to even get better at that. Like that's why flowing conversation, when we talk, I mean, but you my nigga from the year. So it's like, it's always gonna be like that. But I want to be able to sit down with a stranger and basically our conversation is as if we've known each other and we've already had dialogue in the past. Like I want to be, that's how good I want to be at communicating.
Yeah.
Even if the other person is awkward, I want to make them feel comfortable enough to where I'm talking and they let loose on me and we can have a good conversation, good dialogue.
Yo, a few things to say about that, bro. You're already on the way, man. You already understand building rapport is huge. Transitions are huge. I guarantee you cannot find a successful podcaster that does not have lists, like bullet points of things they want to talk about. What makes the difference between like just rapid fire asking questions, because we didn't do that in this at all, but we've answered every single thing that I wanted to talk about. And my list is not short. I have like 20 questions on here, literally.
Mm-hmm.
But we've been able to flow through it. And that comes with preparation, but you're also aware of where the conversation is. So that's where listening comes into play. Like listening is huge.
I don't even feel like you've asked me 20 questions. I feel like we've just covered things and it just so happened that the questions have been answered. But it's been the dialogue has been organic. So that's why it's like I don't feel like you asked me that many questions. I just feel like we've been talking for 3+ hours. So yeah.
But yeah, I mean it I think it really does boil down to having an idea, just having parameters of what you want, where the direction you want to go. And then just, I have a certain amount of questions I wanted to ask, but if the conversation goes and flows in this direction, it's like, oh, okay, cool. And in my mind, I'm able to connect, and we're both like this. We're able to connect dots very easily. So you start talking about something, I'm like, that's kind of related to this. Let me see how I can transition into this kind of conversation real quick. So I feel like that's just a big thing, just studying a lot of people that do it by listening, and you being able to pick up on things like that is just going to help you overall, because now that you're aware of it, and this kind of brings back the whole thing with Jocko Willink in the dichotomy of leadership, when you start learning these little markers, these little mile markers, you're able to identify it a lot more because you're aware of it now. Like you're aware when somebody is really on their grind, because you're like, okay, I see how they're moving. Like when they're talking, they're not talking with loaded comments. Like if I tell you you're loafing or something like that, if I tell you you floated, you're not gonna take it like, oh, he has something against me, because you know where I'm at, because just based off the way, the tonality, the all of that. So I feel like that's key. But then there's this dude named Chris Voss. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he has he has this book. I believe it's called The Art of Negotiation or something like that. I was literally just watching earlier today, and he
Wait,
talks all about that.
is he a master class?
Yeah.
He's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
S.
yeah, yeah, yeah. He has a master
Yeah,
class. Yeah.
I knew that. I knew that name sounded
Yeah.
familiar.
So yeah, bro, highly recommend checking his stuff out too, because I was literally just watching some stuff of him earlier today. That's what I was pulling up on my phone. And he talks about a lot of these things that we're talking about. In order to get better at talking, you have to be a great listener, period. Because the last thing anybody wants to feel is that they're not being heard at the end of the day. So you being able to be fully present and also being completely aware of what questions you have and what direction you want to go. That, I mean, he was the one being interviewed, but it felt like he was interviewing the interviewer, bro. Like, it was crazy. I'll send you this video, but I was literally just watching this joint earlier. And then Jordan Belfort, the Wolf of Wall Street, that's all he talks about too, is tonality and body language. Like, and this week for me has just been a whole week of like neuro linguistic programming and all of these little things. I mean, that's the reason why I'm reading this. That's the reason why I decided to pick up 4 Hour Work Week, because I really like psychology. All of this stuff just keeps coming back in full circle. And in order to build that rapport with these virtual assistants, I wanted to have some type of structure so I can tell a joke with them, be friendly. Cause I'm not just asking them, how can they provide value to me? I want to know what's going on in your life. Found out a majority of them have kids. They don't mind working at this hour of the day. They don't like doing this. They don't like this type of food. They like going to this movie theater. That's building rapport. But then I'm able to kind of bring it back just by being prepared, bro. So yeah.
Yeah, right. And if you want to be a successful CEO and you're outsourcing your labor or you have employees, bro, that's key. Like, no employee wants to feel detached from the head of the business, the company. Like, no, like you were saying, everybody wants to be heard. Everybody wants to be understood. Everybody wants to feel like they have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to be receptive to other people's ideas, like that alone can create such good conversation, bro.
Yeah, and it makes it a lot more natural when you are actually listening to people, and then you show them you're listening by actually speaking on something and observing and giving some type of acknowledgement that you actually heard what they're saying, not just, yeah, I agree. Like that doesn't work.
You know what's interesting, bro? I watched the YouTube interview between Matt DeVia and Gary Vee.
Was that the one that was inside Gary Vee's office?
Yeah, and it was about a couple of different concepts. I watched it like yesterday, like 2 days ago, or something. It was just Gary Vee, the way he communicates is kind of weird. Like, I was like, he was stepping on Matt's questions and statements a lot. This is not like, this is not something crazy. Like, I mean, he wasn't trying to be rude or anything, but it just came off kind of weird to me. I was like, damn, let my man talk real quick. Like,
Yeah.
I fuck with Gary Vee. I'm like, and stuff. I was just saying, like, I don't know. The way he communicated kind of threw me off. Whatever.
And it's funny that you talk about that too, because bringing up Chris Voss again, Gary Vee, and then how we were talking about Trump earlier, Chris Voss was talking about how there's very specific personality types when you're dealing with people in negotiations, right? And we're always in this could be considered a negotiation. Interviews are negotiations. And then those arms deals and all the politics, those are always negotiations. And what Chris Voss was talking about was how, and you kind of talked about this too, we can only really, in a way, admire that Trump is so upfront, because at least we can understand that if he's an erratic type of personality, if he's the type, apparently he's like the only president that's actually like very aggressive in terms of negotiating, because he's a businessman before anything. You feel me? Like, Nip was a rolling 60s crip before anything. You feel me? So if we understand that he's the type to be the hothead, all of his boards of head, whatever they're called, they're going to be like, the moment this starts going this way, we're going to pull out because we're in North Korea. You feel me? So Chris Voss was talking about that. And I think Gary Vee is also a very aggressive talker, in the sense that he wants to take control of the conversation the whole time. So if you understand that about him already, or if you know how to indicate these things just based off of a few words already, you can kind of prepare yourself for that before disappointing yourself, I guess the way is to go. But yeah.
I like the way you put that. Yeah, because like that's what I came out of there with. I was like, he likes to be in control, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I just think it came off because he's so upfront and like energetic that it came off kind of wild. And that probably, I haven't read 48 Laws of Power, but I'm sure there's things in there that have to deal with just like that that need to be in control of the situation. I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought that I just thought of 48 Laws of Power, but I haven't read it. So
Highly recommend reading it. But I also think the reason why it stood out so much, because if you watch other Gary Vee videos, it won't stand out like that. And the reason why I feel like that juxtaposition was so present was because Matt Diavella is on the entirely opposite spectrum of negotiation. He is, I don't want to say passive, but he will allow you to talk. So even just off of the way he edits his videos, very mellow, very soft, very flat. You feel me? Not
yeah,
punchy in your face. Gary V's sharp, no edit, maybe some edit on the audio, but very harsh and in front of your face. So you see a stark difference between them,
yeah,
literally
that's
across the table.
put that out, bro. Because
Yeah.
now that I thought it, yeah, bro, they have two like entirely different styles when it comes to how they portray themselves and like just their attitude towards stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not one is good and one is wrong. I mean, one is right and one is wrong. It's just that when you put those two together, it's kind of
You
it's
really
weird.
see it.
Yeah, you really see the difference. You really see, yeah, exactly, bro.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to see like aggressive with aggressive, watch there's this dude named Valuetainment. He had Jordan Peterson on his show, and Valuetainment is very aggressive when he talks, like super aggressive when he talks. Jordan Peterson, exactly the same, bro. Like, and I
I
got
bet.
to see them, and I thought it was like it was getting like tense, but it wasn't. It wasn't tense. It was just that's just how they talk. You feel me? It's like, for example, Nigerians, they talk very loud. That's just them. Asians, very quiet. You feel me? That's just them. You feel me? So when you see, if you don't know that that's their culture, if that's their personality, with aggressive talkers and passive talkers and all these other spectrums, I forgot how many he said, but I'm pretty sure it was 4. Then you're going to look at it from the outside in like, whoa, like what's really going on here? Not really understanding it. But this whole thing, bro, it's crazy because neurolinguistic programming, there's this book by Robert Greene called The Laws of Human Nature. You got this book here, 4-Hour Work Week. Like all of these things really are going into like body language, tonality, just like the slight cues. Cause I learned, this is like way off topic, but like I learned that communication is about 80% body language and subverbal communication. I forgot how they worded it. It's not actual words itself, but certain things you do, those micro expressions in your face, how you're leaning, what are you doing, even just the tone of your voice, not even the words that you're saying. So that's something that I've been practicing a lot recently, especially when I watch these interviews and these podcasts that are recorded like on Joe Rogan or Valuetainment, whatever it is. I'm mainly watching body language. And I was reading this article. It said, just start with somebody's face, look for certain things, because based off what they're saying, you can really get an idea of what they're really trying to say just based off of certain facial expressions, if they really mean it or not. And I don't know. That's what I've been doing this whole week, bro. Like for real, just been diving deep into that whole thing. Like,
Well, I will not. I'm about to take pointers on some of the things you recommended, and I saw you send a message. But yeah, bro. Like I just think that's a big part of life, bro. Because we as humans, that's all we do all day is communicate, negotiate, listen, talk. Like that's
interact with each other,
yeah,
bro.
and that's how things get done. So like I think it's real important to be able to understand these things because again, that's just the way of life. Like in order for you to become successful, bro, you need to know how to communicate with people because
Period.
you can't get there by yourself. You have to communicate. You have to close deals. You have to make offers. You have to butter people up sometimes. Like it's
Yeah, you
all
can't
part.
even you can't be completely ignorant to certain personalities. That's why I feel like the way we went and I feel like the way we really started applying ourselves more is after we took that MBTI, because you're the one who recommended it to me. And after I took that and me understanding, oh, this is really me, like it defined me to a T that I couldn't even explain. This was no astrology zodiac test. Like this was tried and true. You feel me? So when I finally was like, wow, okay, not only I don't want to say necessarily categorized, but the fact that I'm categorized in this type of personality, that I can understand who I am. You feel me? That allowed me to be like, okay, if this is my baseline, kind of like a polygraph, if this is my baseline, I know if I deviate this way, I can start asking questions like, why am I really feeling like that? So even when I start getting upset or frustrated, I'll be like, what is actually bothering you? You feel me? In the very stoic way to go about it, but like what really is it? Let's be logical about this right now.
And can you control it? Like
exactly.
If it's out of your control, why you don't let it work you up? Like,
and then you just let it go at that point, you know? So after I feel like people can understand who they are, then it's a great way to kind of branch out of their circle of influence into other types of personalities and then start to understand other people. But until you can understand yourself, I feel like it'd be a waste of time trying to understand other people if you don't even know who you are first. I can't even stop talking, thinking, saying how, and you said it yourself, like how grateful I am for having like this mastermind group, bro. Especially when we first relinked again, man. I feel like that really started to get that ball rolling. And then it was just a wrap from there, bro. Like I'm very excited to see where we'll be a year from now, you know, mentally, financially, and geographically, where we'll be, because I'm sure we're probably going to be having this conversation somewhere else, you know, on our own time, most likely.
Yeah, word, bro. Yeah, so I will holler at you, bro. You already know. I'm gonna keep in tune with you throughout the week. I guess whatever. It's already love, bro. All right, bro.
Thank you, man.
For sure.
All right, everybody. I hope you all enjoyed that podcast that I just had with Kel. As you all should have understood from the very beginning when I said just tune in and listen, man, we covered a very broad range of topics. We're definitely going to have Kel back on the podcast very soon, so don't even trip if you enjoyed it. If there's some topics that you guys wanted to hear us discuss more, let us know, you know, down in the comments, or feel free to shoot us a message or a DM on Instagram at The Blueprint Journal. We'll look into it. But anyways, I'll see you guys on the next episode coming out on Sunday. Peace out.